Hello, and welcome to the By Blacks channel. I'm Camille Dundas, editor-in-chief. I've just finished watching an explosive documentary film called Above the Law. It's airing on CBC Doc's July 11th, and you gotta watch it. It couldn't be more timely. It took 5 years to make, and this film unravels the stories of three people who all have something terrifyingly in common. They've each suffered extreme, excessive force at the hands of Calgary police, which, by the way, as recently as 2 years ago, had the highest number of fatal police shootings in the country. One of those three people is Godfred Addai. 6 years ago, he was driving some of his friends home from a party. It's the middle of winter, and Godfred was a designated driver. The car got stuck in the snow. Godfred and his friends were trying to get the car out when a Calgary police van pulled up, and Godfred thought, okay, they're here to help. Instead, one officer claims Godfred became aggressive towards one of his friends, and then the police put him in the back of the police van. They drove him in the opposite direction of his home to a construction site and just left him there.
911 for what city?
Please, kindly, I'm freezing. Please, the police dropped me off here.
When an officer finally shows up, he's angry, tells him to stop calling 911, doesn't help him, instead handcuffs him and throws Godfred to the ground, kicking and punching him. And Godfred is the one who ends up being charged with assaulting a police officer. Godfred is joining me today alongside one of the filmmakers, Mark Serpa Francoeur, behind the film Above the Law. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Godfred, I want to start with you because your story was so particularly troubling for me because what Calgary Police did to you was reminiscent of a practice dating back to the 1970s called Starlight Tours, where people, mostly Indigenous men, were arrested for a minor infraction and taken out to the middle of nowhere and left to freeze to death. No cop has ever been held accountable for that, and it seems like no one's been accountable in your case either. It's been 6 years since this happened. Tell me, how has this impacted your life?
It has taken a big impact on my life. As right now, I'm not able to work. I have PTSD that I'm still, in the process of healing from that. I have back pains that is going to be there for, as far as I know, for life. It's taking a negative impact on my life. Mm-hmm. And hopefully one day I'll get to see some justice and have this whole case resolved, and I can move on with my life.
You know, we were chatting before about the big case that's happening here in Toronto involving a young man named Defund Miller. And, his attackers, one was a police officer and his brother were on trial and found guilty of a simple assault. The other brother was found guilty of nothing. A huge disappointment for the community here. Left us feeling really hopeless that justice will ever be served in these cases. It's been 6 years for you. Do you have real hope that you're going to see some justice? How are you feeling now about the prospect of seeing someone be held accountable for what happened to you?
Oh. It's very clear that Canadians are, very concerned about, policing in Canada. And I want to make this clear, like, Black people and Indigenous people are treated very, very differently, and yeah, we are like over-policed out here, mm-hmm. And it's about time we address that issue. I want to see more Indigenous people in the police force. I want to see more Black people in the police force. I want to see more Spanish. I want to see like a multicultural police force, right? Not just, one race, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to help.
Mark, you spent 5 years immersed in following police misconduct for this documentary. How do you feel now about the Defund the Police movement?
It's interesting. 5 years ago when we first, Godfred and I first met, we never could have imagined, I certainly couldn't have, where the conversation, forget about 5 years, go back 2 months, right? And just where the conversation is at today. I think that people are realizing that we need to take a really hard look at what, what is the design of policing in this country and beyond? What is it we expect of officers? Even the current chief of Calgary made a statement to this effect recently, that we need to it's important to define what exactly the roles of the police officers are. And I think a lot of people are asking the kind of questions that I've been asking for a long time. I grew up, the son of a social worker, and, kind of was aware of, what my mother would do and like how her work intersected with police officers. And I just think, it is not at all clear that police officers are the people that have the right kind of training and the right kind of skills to deal with a lot of the incidents that we're so concerned about. Wellness checks, for example, being, at the top of that list. And I just think it's important for us as a society to not be afraid to, again, look at these roles. And as we know, for example, police services, generally speaking, and this is no exception in Calgary, are the largest line item of any municipal budget. And ask questions. Could those funds be better spent elsewhere?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are coming to the conclusion that yes, that is the case. So, yeah, I think these are important conversations to have. And if, for me, I don't find threatening, for example, the notion or just I embrace the notion that just like with any other aspect of the public sector, that we should be evaluating how well these institutions are working and what it is that they're being asked to do. And I think the current situation doesn't serve the public, and it doesn't serve police officers either. And whatever policing looks like in the future, I mean, clearly the problems we're having now is the result of not having had these conversations in a sufficient way to date. So here we are.
I also want to add that if it wasn't for the helicopter video, right, where would I be right now? Talking about body cams and stuff. If it wasn't for the helicopter, it would be my word against his word. And I don't see any judge out there be like, okay, hey, yeah, you are telling the truth, and the cop is lying, or like the cop is lying and you are telling the truth, So I think having body cams should be they should take it very seriously.
What was so striking for me watching the documentary and listening to your lawyer, Godfred, it really struck me when she said that she herself was scared for you. And I'm thinking, you're his lawyer. If you're scared for him, my God, right? And I love that she admitted that.
Parents, right?
I love that she admitted that, because it really showed the power of the system, right? And the other striking thing was when she said that the helicopter video, as you mentioned, clearly showed that you were not aggressive, that you were not resisting, but they still went ahead. They were so confident in their ability to get off, right? They still went ahead with the trial, like knowing that the evidence existed. And for me, that's why I'm so skeptical about the body cameras, right? Because it seems like there's a bigger problem in terms of police and their confidence that the system works for them and them alone.
Yeah, I think, why are they scared to introduce these body cams? Because of the bad things that they do, and they don't want that to be caught on tape, right? So why is this such a big issue for them to wear body cams? Why is this such a big issue for them?
Yeah,
I think that for us, the one word that across the board is sort of encompasses everything, again, is this issue of accountability. Because as we know, you can have the best rules in place, the best guidelines, the best police acts, and if the officers or anyone in any field aren't held accountable, that's fundamentally our problem. And I think with body cams, like we've seen with body cams, in-car cameras, a number of incidents in Calgary. Clayton Prince, a young Indigenous man who was beaten after running from the police, where the officers clearly turned off the cameras. And there was charges laid in that. There was one assault conviction, but there was never any punishment that I'm aware of for having turned off those cameras. Or if so, and this is going back to 2015, those professional conduct hearings, which we know are so problematic with the Calgary Police, haven't been resolved. So I think that's really the question. And I'll also point out there's a recent incident in Calgary where a teenager, this is caught on body cam. I think this is one of the first cases we've seen. And the officers in the video bloody him and he's knocked into the car clearly, and they're swearing at him and again carrying on away. You know you're being recorded, and I think that says so much about the culture. That's this is a huge piece of it. The culture is it, and also the impunity. I mean,
Yeah.
I won't say what they repeat here, but you can look it up online. It's incredibly crude, and again, all of this is in clear violation of the Police Act. It's discreditable conduct. And here's what's incredible. Like in Godfred's case, the young kid who was 16, and it's unclear from the video for what, was prosecuted for assaulting an officer. And in his case, he was convicted.
Wow.
And I really think it's a shock to the public consciousness. And just like in Godfred's case, you look at this and it's like, what? And we have to bring in the Crown Prosecution Service into this. It's like, what is going on with the Crown prosecutors that they looked at Godfred's case and they said, yes, this is the thing that we are going to expend public resources on. Like, just imagine the amount of money that went into this. Forget about the impact on Godfred, you know? So I just think that's a huge part of the problem is, and we would like to operate under the premise that these institutions are impartial, that these decisions are being made on the basis of such clear-cut laws. But clearly what we can see in Godfred's case is a perfect example of that, is how much discretion is at play.
Yeah.
And I find that very disturbing and frankly just totally unacceptable.
Is that, I was going to, go ahead, Godfred.
I just want to say we Canadians, we need urgent, urgent change, Like the system right now is broken. The system of accountability is broken. I think that's why the cops are just doing whatever they want, because it seems like a lot of prosecutors are protecting these bad cops because clearly they're doing bad things out there and they are not charged, they are not prosecuted, or there's no punishment or consequences for them. So I think the system is protecting a lot of bad cops and prosecutors protecting a lot of bad cops. And I think it's time we address those issues.
Yeah, I would say that, the system is working exactly as it was designed, because it wasn't designed to be true, to have a true justice system. I call it a legal system, and I try not to refer to it as a justice system because there's nothing just about it.
That's not no.
Yeah. Mark, what did you learn about the relationship between the police and the legal system, between the police and like crowns? What did anything, come out during your research that surprised you?
Yeah, I think that, as Godfred's now attorney in the film, Tom Engel says, he says, we're dealing with very close relationships. We're dealing with a lot of deference. This is anecdotal what he says. He says, he's had Crown prosecutors say, well, I have to go check with my officers. What does that mean? And as Tom says so well, he says, what do you mean your officers? Like you not only should you not, but you can't care what they think. And again, the fact that, as we know, for example, in the Haworth case, which is another one that's dealt with in the film, which is the same officer who beat Godfred, assaulted somebody else, that in that case, they bring in a prosecutor and a judge from Edmonton, right? Now, on the one hand, clearly that's showing, okay, you're trying to achieve this independence, but it also speaks to the fact that in the context of the city, like that the relationship is so close that it's not trusted in that case. And yet, again, who is it that's making these decisions about, for example, the choice to prosecute someone? So, yeah, I think that the relationship between the police and the Crown across the board really needs to be examined. And I would love to see, we have such a dearth of research and scholarship in this country looking at, and there's really not a lot of transparency in our legal system, looking at these choices, and how the sort of systematic decisions that are being made about who gets prosecuted and when. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of indication that the relationship is quite problematic. I'm just going to jump in. It looks like I'm on my balcony. The Toronto Police Department, I don't know if you can see, is making a cameo.
Oh, wow.
That's a coincidence. I don't know why they're parked on the sidewalk.
Never too far.
They're watching you, bro.
Maybe. Uh-oh.
Godfred, I wanted to end with you. When you're walking down the street and you see a police car, how do you feel now?
I just want to run. Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with them. Say, for instance, if I'm driving, I look in the rearview mirror and I see a cop behind me. I'm stuck with two options: stop and let him pass by, or just take off. And it's a horrible feeling. It's a very terrible, horrible feeling.
If you had the chance to face that Officer Lindsay, I believe his name is, who attacked you, if you have the chance to see him face to face in court one day, what would you want to say to him?
There's a lot of things I want to say to him, but um, hopefully he goes to jail. Hopefully he gets some jail time for sure for all the bad things that he did out there. That's too caught on tape, and God knows how many out there not caught on tape. So I just hope he gets to do some jail time for sure, and not just, you know, he needs to do like jail time, actual jail time with jail people, not just like he's gonna be in a separate unit, and he has to face like do time like every other citizen will be doing time, right? So yeah,
Well, Godfred, thank you for being able to share your story like this. And Mark, 5 years working on a doc, no easy task. Thank you for staying the course and bringing these stories to light. Thank you both for being here today. Above
thank
the
you,
Law airs on CBC Docs July 11th. Thank you.
thank you, thank you.